Sam, well, that's a compliment. Sam Amick. Good morning, Sam.
Good morning, Dave. How are you, gentlemen?
See what I did.
Hi. Yes. Hi, Sam. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. You're my
Good.
real friend.
Good.
The funny thing about that little jab I took at Sam is it puts him kind of in a corner this early because he can't really crack back because he loves Howard and isn't gonna disrespect Howard back and be like,
I can, and this now I'm gonna be sending this segment to Howard. I can definitely crack back on Howard. First of all, he went to UC Davis.
True.
That's a big blow against him.
Big no.
Well, he was just in town, and even though we are very good friends and we work together as partners on the board for the Pro Basketball Writers Association, I looked up the other day at the Golden One Center as I stood courtside across the floor, and I saw that Howard Beck came all the way to town and did not even bother to tell me that he was coming.
Whoa.
Unbelievable. Big,
maybe not that good a friend, Sam.
Goes and works for the New York Times and is with the Ringer. Maybe he's just a little Sam, maybe saying a little too big for his britches.
Maybe.
Unconfirmed. Okay.
He just doesn't like Hornets. I think that's what it is.
Could be.
It's award season. So one of the things I had promoted with bringing you on is we're going to try to delve. Now, I understand that some content you need to save because we want people to go and read The Athletic. It's fantastic. So I will give you as much of a buy as you want, but any chance we could maybe peek into where you were either leaning or where you voted for some of these postseason awards?
Yeah, that's fine. I don't know if I'm going to, and sorry, I'm now looking down at my phone because you're asking for this information. I don't know if I'm going to write about it, but I certainly don't mind being transparent about it. What is your curiosity, my friend?
Well, let's start with the one that most people here care about because it's the one that's involved, that we're involved in. And we talked to you a couple weeks ago. And it certainly sounded like you were definitely leaning hard one way, but in the end, where did your sixth man of the year award shake out, Sam?
I did vote for Malik Monk.
Yes. Well done. Good man.
Right answer.
Integrity.
Yeah.
I had Naz Reid second and Bobby Portis third, Norm Powell fourth, even though there is no fourth.
So literally, that's actually was a question. You do vote for three?
Yeah.
Top three?
Yeah.
Okay.
Is it like one of those?
I mean, the Naz Reid discussion is interesting because actually I had a pretty robust debate with Howard about this the other night because not to put his business in the streets, I think he did Naz. Naz being a starter and having this uptick in support in terms of his candidacy during his time as a starter, I just don't think honors the spirit of the award. Howard's disagreement was that part of being, kind of a super six man is if somebody goes down that you are capable of, playing that part. And I get it, but like those numbers, I don't think should really apply to the award. And then conversely, Malik in this part is just not real sexy. Didn't really get that emphasized when it comes to the Kings and their promotion of Malik. But they went 3-5, or I think it was 3-5 without him, and just fell off a cliff. And that I think also showed his value. So yeah, I had Malik.
Nice.
I like that.
Yeah, and I guess just to piggyback on one of the wins ultimately that they did get. Sam, you were there the other night to see them. I mean, was that the best you've seen the Kings play when they beat the Warriors the other night?
Ever?
No, this group.
Yeah, I mean, it was a pretty shocking win. It's funny. I go to Warriors shoot around the day of the game, and none of the stuff we say actually matters, obviously. But what did crack me up was my own energy, and I'm just being totally transparent about this. Like, I go to Warriors shoot around. I have a nice conversation with Steve Kerr after his team does its thing, and at the end of the conversation, literally said to him, like, wow, the Kings owner's head is going to explode when you guys just like when you pummel them tonight. Wow. Like that's kind of, I just thought it was going to happen. The Kings weren't playing well. The Warriors. Yeah. And I do wonder, the Warriors, I don't think really talked about this, but when you have a 1-game March Madness type situation and I think you are a little prone to having a letdown, especially when you see this Kings team with no Malik Monk, And I mean, the Warriors just never responded. And you guys, I'm preaching to the choir, like to watch the Kings go up big, and then of course be going, okay, now when do they give it back? Because that's what they do.
Mhm.
And to have them never really give it back was strange, but great timing. They look fantastic.
Can I do a thing I know you'll love where, and you can just choose to not comment? Can I just put you in a horrible position here and ask you about a colleague of yours?
Yeah, that's fine. I hope it's not one in particular, but go ahead. Yeah.
Is John Hollinger okay?
Why? What do you say? What do you do?
I just wanted, can someone check on John?
What do you write?
Well, reportedly, he voted Bogdan Bogdanovic and Jonathan Isaac for sixth man over Malik Monk. And it's not like it's the first time John has been contrarian-esque with these things. It makes you wonder if somebody should just do a wellness check on the guy who obviously, I mean, he worked in the front office. He invented PER. Like, it's not like he's dumb at basketball, but my goodness.
Yeah, I haven't talked to John a little bit, so I could check on him for you.
Yeah, check on him for us.
I will definitely. We have had a chuckle in the past about how the city of Sacramento loves him.
Oh, just loves him.
And so, yeah, I do think that, not to generalize, but like that community, meaning you mentioned PER, so that's the player efficiency rating. That it is one of the better stats to kind of encapsulate overall value, although it doesn't have much of a defensive metric. You know, in that similar community, some friends and colleagues, Nate Duncan and Danny LaRue, had a podcast a little while back where they did their awards. And I don't know if their views changed, but between their two ballots for sixth man, Malik only got one third place finish. So lack of efficiency is something that is a major mark against a player like Malik for some voters. Now it wasn't, I mean, this was not, I mean, Jamal Crawford had years, or, Lou Williams had years where the efficiency was far less what Malik had this year, but Bogdan's efficiency is something that, is a mark for him if that's the way you were, prioritizing aspects of the game. So, but I'll check on him. I'm glad, I know you're worried. Yeah.
I do care.
You're worried. Yeah.
I'm very worried.
Sam, injuries have hit obviously at the wrong time. We just talked about Malik. He's him being out for the Kings, but the Kings' next opponent is New Orleans. And whether it was last night, Jimmy Butler, or Zion Williamson the other day, terrible timing for him because he was really starting to put it together here late and trying to make his first playoff run. What do you think the impact of really both of those significant injuries? Maybe even throw Giannis in there. I mean, we got some high level people that are out at the wrong time.
No, it sucks. It really does. I know it's good for Kings fans because they want to win this game tomorrow, but independent of that, it's really unfortunate. The Zion thing, I feel bad for him. I don't know Zion at all. Nobody in the media really does because he keeps us at an arm's length. But regardless, like, you go from midway through the season just getting absolutely destroyed publicly for, again, for your weight, for the way you're playing, for your kind of your lost promise and your inability to maximize your God-given talent. Then you put together a pretty special second half of the season. You evolve. That guy hadn't been in the playoffs, and I feel terrible for him. He's out there just dominating a play-in game, having one of the best games of his career at the right time. So that is super unfortunate. The Jimmy thing, I hate because there's just, he's on my short list of fun things to watch this time of year, Jimmy Butler in the postseason stage. I don't like that. Giannis is on that same list. Giannis is, when he plays like it's the playoffs when it's late October, but in the actual playoffs, not only is one of the elite competitors, but somebody who I think, he'll be back. I don't know when, but I think, is going to have an even bigger chip on his shoulder than normal, because it sounds crazy to say, like, Giannis is being very overlooked right now. So yeah, it's bad all around. Did I leave somebody out, Jay? Who else we got?
Jimmy, you said Jimmy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's, on the one hand, it's that time of year, but this was like a little flurry right before the actual playoffs. That is, a big bummer.
Well, speaking of playoffs and speaking of Giannis, his team, the Bucks, did not fare too well against the Pacers this year. And it is such an interesting situation developing, where you had the best record in the Eastern Conference have their coach fired, and Adrian Griffin, to the point where the new coach, Doc Rivers, was coaching the All-Star team like 5 minutes after he took the job. And to say that the Bucks finished the season strong is largely incorrect. The Knicks end up catching them by a game for the 2 seed, still 49-33. But there is a world, as you know, Sam, because of the Pacers' success, where Indiana is able to knock the Bucks out in the first round. Now, they just signed Doc Rivers to a massive contract, and I know I'm being largely speculative here. But, Sam, if Indiana were to knock out the Bucks, is as weird as it is Doc Rivers on the hot seat or gone?
No.
Okay. All right. Okay. I mean, that's
if anything, I mean, it's funny. The other day, our guy who covers the Pistons so well, James Edwards,
he loves Sacramento too. He's huge here. People love him.
Man, stop having your Sacramento complex.
He said something like, what did he say? It was out of the blue. He said a shot. He said like downtown.
He said that these writers don't like coming here. Like, bro, like, can we be real? For years, they would come and go to Arco Arena and stay in the Thomas. Like, now we don't need to have this discussion.
But isn't that the do I look fat in this dress of sports journalism? Like, we know that's fine, but do you have to say it? It's very, very rude. It's rude, Sam.
It's 2024. Everybody says everything all the time.
All right. What did James say?
Nobody keeps their thoughts to themselves anymore.
That's very true.
James, now I forgot what James said. I don't know. Troy Weaver, the head of the Pistons front office, is not going to be the head of the Pistons front office much longer. He's going to be there, but they're going to hire somebody above him. James reported about a possible tie-in to John Horst, who is the GM of the Bucks. And I only bring this up because it was a little bit of one of those storylines where it's like, James is good at his job, and, you connect the dots and you say, like, I think John, the head of the Bucks front office, is fine. But, I think if the Bucks had absolutely sailed through the second half of the season, nobody would be speculating about the head of the Bucks front office going somewhere else. Right. Because as great a job as John has done, the reality of the Bucks situation, he was on board all the way back when they drafted Giannis, and then since then has built this contender and then won the championship. But they have not had a good stretch. And he hired Adrian Griffin after firing Mike Budenholzer. That was a disaster. You made the trade for Damian Lillard that everybody thought was going to be great. Has not worked out the way that they thought. So in terms of culpability, I would speculate that, the spotlight is more in that direction than it is on Doc. But yeah, the results have been awful. I looked at it the other day. I wrote about it. 17-19 since Doc took over. The net rating, offensive rating, defensive rating, everything is on the back end of the league. So it's not good. And then you have, like the other day, Stephen A. Smith made a random comment about Damian Lillard being unhappy and how he thinks that they should move him.
Saw that, yeah.
Yeah. So I think, the Pacers thing can be absolute salt in the wound for all that ails the Bucks right now, because, you go back to the Tyrese Halliburton in-season tournament stuff where he was tapping his watch and making fun of Dame time. For me, that's probably the most interesting first-round series.
Okay, so I was going to ask you that. What other series kind of has your attention? Obviously, we still have 2 more to fill out. Who will the 8 seeds be in the East and the West? But as you look at the landscape of these playoff series, what else kind of catches your attention?
Yeah, I mean, in the East, I like that. There's a bunch of good ones. I like, Sixers Knicks is going to be fun. It's been a long time since those two teams, clashed. And Joel Embiid didn't look like himself last night, but looked pretty good, and they pulled that game off. In the West, it's, not as sexy in terms of big fan bases, but Clippers Mavs is a really good series. Clippers were mediocre down the stretch, but showed a few signs late. Bunch of legacy talk within that team where you have James Harden, no rings, Paul George, no rings, Ty Lue trying to get another ring. The Mavs, of course, with Luka and Kyrie, we've talked about them a lot the past couple of weeks. I like the Suns T-Wolves series. There's a theme this year that is interesting and probably just natural in terms of like father time marching on, but like having the LeBrons and the Steph Currys and the Kevin Durants and all these all-time greats be fighting for their playoff lives on the back end of the pack is wild to watch, because truthfully Minnesota should be favored, probably is favored in that series. And so, could we have Kevin Durant and to a lesser degree Devin Booker and Bradley Beal saying goodbye in the first round? It's a real possibility.
I love that you said there is a theme, because there is, especially in the West, where if you flip flop these 10 years ago, more than likely they'd be upside down, where you have OKC as the 1 seed and Denver and Minnesota. And then, as you said, you have the legacy teams scratching and clawing. When we get to the Warriors and the fact that they're back, I want to share something with you that I said to Jason after that game. I said there was a point where weirdly I'm sitting and watching the game. It's fourth quarter. The game's wrapped. It's like 2 minutes left, and I'm looking at Steve Kerr and Sam. I felt bad for him in a sense. Looking at the box score, we talked about how like Kevon Looney, he had a little bit of foul trouble, but played some very good minutes. But I think he only played like 8 minutes, and that was their big key to Sabonis last year. Moses Moody had 16 and I think like 14 minutes and was a plus. I think he was the only guy who was a plus on that team. And you had Klay play 32. He was 0 of 10. Obviously, Draymond, Steph, etc. I felt like Steve got thoroughly outcoached by Mike Brown, but I also felt like it almost wasn't his fault, that Steve was like, look, I'm going to stick with my legacy guys. I'm not going to embarrass them. And if that means that we lose this game, I'm going to lose it with them rather than making adjustments that maybe my better angels tell me I should make, because I don't want to not ride with these guys. I could be making that up. That could be all in my head, but I felt like he was almost a little bit handcuffed that night.
Yeah, I probably don't agree with you on that one, only because I know it's your show. I'm supposed to just you're so smart, Dave. You got the box in front of you still?
Yeah, let me bring that up. Go ahead.
Kuminga and Trace Jackson Davis, how many minutes?
Let's see. Kuminga and
I know Trace Jackson started the first 7, then didn't come until very late again.
11 for him. Kuminga had 28.
So fine. My point is only supported by Kuminga. Kuminga didn't play very well.
Right.
And that's a young guy. I mean, the thing is, I actually think their program is fine. It's just you have to change the expectations. Even internally, they're not going to broadcast this. Like, they know that, like, it's not that they're not trying to win championships still. They are, but it's a little analogous to the late Kobe years with the Lakers. And actually, this is a much better version of it, where you're going to win games. And maybe if you get some sort of unforeseen development, if Kuminga absolutely turns into a star, then you're back in title contention. They're going to be fine. It's made for a weird conversation already in terms of, is this the end of the dynasty? Well, yeah, but I think, and this is not for sure by any means, I wrote this yesterday, I think Klay probably resigns. I probably think, we're handicapping, that Chris Paul is not back, that financially they've got to get off his money. And I also know that they're extremely excited about, it's just not a small thing that Kuminga, Brandon Podziemski, and Trace Jackson Davis are really good. Like, those are pieces that it's a little like the Kings, where your growth is going to come if a Keegan Murray takes the next step. That's how they're looking at it. As far as Steve, I mean, he did get outcoached by Mike. I mean, he would say that he lost the game and didn't find adjustments. Sabonis, and I wish I could credit who it was. There was a good clip online talking about the adjustments the Kings made this year compared to last year, and some of the actions up top. The Kings learned from that game a year ago, and they played really, really well.
Yeah, it's interesting. So I want to go back to the Klay part. You do think it's kind of mutual? He would want to be back. They would want to keep him. You think that's your guess?
Well, I mean, that was certainly the strong sense I got going into that game the other night. And so now the question becomes, that as far as the human component, how tough is this experience? The 0 for 10 showing is not nothing. Like, Joe Lacob, very much like Vivek Ranadive, and a lot of owners, is an emotional guy. And so, Joe probably has a number in his head of like, Klay, I love you and we can bring you back. But like, if you ask for more than this, then I just can't sleep at night. So, the feelings component matters because Klay has been offended really by, and he's not alone. Joe Lacob has tough negotiating style, even with some of the most beloved Warriors of all time. Like he irritated Steve Kerr and Steph Curry to varying degrees when he was figuring out their stuff. Draymond's different because Draymond's always been having to, kind of apologize to the organization. But with Klay, it's, he has to feel respected. So if the Warriors get that aspect done and they find a middle ground, then I think he'll be back. But Orlando does loom as a real threat. And then I wrote about how Dallas, is considered a team that's worth watching as well.
I guess it doesn't work this way, but is there anything to saying to Klay? Yeah, dude, the salary cap next year is $141 million. The Golden State Warriors right now are at 209 and are slated without Klay to be at 175. That's without Klay. And oh, by the way, we paid you $43.2 million last year for 18 points, 3 rebounds, and 2 assists on 43% shooting. So can we have some of that back?
What did he shoot from 3?
He shot 38.7. Not bad.
I think he finished top 3 in threes made.
He had 3.5 threes made, down from 4.4. And he also had 9 attempts per game. I mean, I'm not.
No, I hear you.
Tell me Klay wasn't severely overpaid this year.
No, I'm not.
Yeah.
Did you see his press conference yesterday?
I did not. No.
Ooh-wee. I texted our guy Anthony Slater, who was there, and I just, all I said was, "Wow, cranky Klay." He does not enjoy talking about his future. That again, that human component, I do wonder. Like, oh boy, like Klay's really, I don't think in a great place, and I get it. He just played terribly. The other night after the game, he did not talk to the media. Was very edgy, and he's not normally that way. He took a little kind of shot. A reporter tried to get him, and it wasn't me, but he was like, vultures. He was a little salty after that game. Then he goes to the press conference, and I only bring this up because you talk about the previous contract, which is a very valid point. They took care of him during a time when he had multiple serious injuries. Kendra Andrews of ESPN basically asked him about, the idea that the Warriors typically take care of their guys and how they took care of them back with that contract after the injuries. And rather than say, no, you're right, they did. And I wish you would have seen this, guys. He kind of scoffed and he laughed and he goes, he goes, can you imagine if they didn't pay me? Like, oh, four titles. Cool. Good luck. You got hurt. Something to that effect. And it was a little moment of truth that was like, wow. Okay. So, and I do see his point. You won 4 championships. It would have been a bad look not to pay him, but there wasn't any bandwidth left over in his mind for the idea that yes, that should be factored in and remembered. So if he's that edgy going into free agency about the relationship, then who the hell knows?
Well, we got a break, but screw him, man. He made $68 million over 2 years that he didn't play. And I understand he was hurt, but come on. You made $68 million plus 42 this year, which is about double what your value was. Good luck. Because I don't know. That strikes me as weird, dude. And I've always liked Klay, to be honest. But that's my opinion. You can read Sam's opinions in The Athletic. Subscribe. It's like a penny a month or some crap. I pay a lot more. I'm happy to do it for me and my son. It's the best sports journalism you're going to find, all curated both on the app and on the web for you. So please do support our friends and go to theathletic.com. Samuel, thank you. Go yell at Howard Beck, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, guys. Have a great day.
Thank you.
That's Sam. We're way late for a break. When we come back, we'll take a look at the other series. Let's see if we can get this Caitlin Clark conversation in somewhere as well. We'll do that next.
It was a beam unlike any beam we've seen.
The Warriors 3, no good.